Hello, I'm Skid, and today we have a bit of an odd video. So in the interest of being upfront to let you know if you want to keep watching, here's the TLDW. And the video has been split into chapters for your convenience. One of the main points of this video is to test a new content pipeline. After my Death's Door video, I was unhappy with the 4K quality output from YouTube. So after a bunch of testing last week, these two videos are as far as YouTube will let me push it. One at my native 48:9 aspect ratio, another at a cropped 21:9. I'm still not 100% happy with the final output. YouTube isn't giving the videos enough bitrate during high motion parts, but it's good enough for now. Details on what I'm doing to create this 8K video is in the latter section of this video. But before that, I need to go over what happened to my channel and why I basically let it die, and what my plans are going forward. If none of this is of any interest to you, thank you very much for watching this far. If only some of it is, then chapters are below, so feel free to jump around. With that out of the way, let's start with the elephant in the room. My first triple monitor video was uploaded all the way back in March of 2010, but it wasn't until March the following year that I started uploading semi-regularly. My first 4K wide video was uploaded in April of the same year. I had a nice stream of videos going up until about August in 2014, when my content more or less stopped, aside from random uploads here and there. So here's what happened. In 2 words, apathy and excuses. Fundamentally, I struggled with 2 things that, in the end, led me to put things off indefinitely. The first was something that still bothers me when programming, and is one of the reasons my personal projects have ground to a halt. Indecision, and the fear of having to redo work. Either because something was wrong, or because it didn't work in the first place, or something else has changed. In the case of videos, I got to the point where I didn't want to create a video saying that a game didn't have multi-monitor support, or that it was partially broken, when it was possible that the community might fix it. But a fix might end up taking a week, or a month, or it may never happen. This paralysis of not wanting to put up a negative video that would be invalidated in the future made me not want to make it, which, combined with the age-old excuse of it'll wait till the weekend, led to the second thing. Fear of missing out, or rather the excuse that the game was released 1 or 2 months ago, so no one's going to care about a video now. This is obviously, objectively, false, and counter to what I was trying to do with this channel in the first place. I never started creating videos to be entertaining, or to be the first, or to show off my skills. Nor do I think I could create a video to be entertaining, and my skills are nowhere near the level needed to get people to watch because of them. No, my videos were always created to inform, to show off the game, its capabilities, and explain systems mechanics. And ultimately, a video that does exist, or a video that doesn't exist, informs no one. And a video that is late, but accurate at the time, is still better than none at all. These issues are now affecting my personal life, or more specifically what I want to do with my life. Over 2 years ago at this point, the company I used to work for went insolvent and I was left jobless. This in itself wasn't an issue. I knew the company was having issues and I had planned ahead in the event that it had failed. I wanted to get into game development. I knew I needed to learn a bunch of things to bridge the gap between my general software engineering knowledge and being able to apply that to video game development. I also knew that if I wanted to get a job, I would need to have something to show that I could do that. 2 years later, I have nothing to show, thanks largely to the same issues described above, along with the frustration of having multiple solutions to a problem and being able to pick one, a literal failure to try any of those options, or more accurately, running away from them and finding distractions so I don't need to, a cyclical feeling of failing at what I set out to do. And that brings us to today, in this video. For the 700 of you that subscribed, that in spite of me letting this channel die and only uploading random things over the last 6 years, that are still subscribed regardless, I will try to do better, as much for you as to help motivate me. My hope is by reviving this channel, by making and publishing videos, it will help motivate me to do other things that I want to do. Not as a result of making this channel a success, it's still a niche channel after all, but the result of creating a reminder that if I put my mind to something, I can get it done if I just put the effort in. As a result, here are my plans going forward. I'm going to try to have a video at least 3 to 5 days a week, which does mean I'll need to start doing regular Let's Plays to fill content gaps, but we'll get to that later. Firstly, all of my major videos from this point on will be released in two formats at the same time. 48:9 aspect ratio at 8K wide, that's 7680 by 1440, and a cropped 21:9 aspect ratio at 3K, that's 3360 by 1440. Both videos will be labelled in the first part of the title and the thumbnail as to what aspect ratio they are. The reason for this is just to allow my videos to be watchable by a larger audience without having to create a spin-off channel or sacrifice my current core audience and the reason I made this channel in the first place. Secondly, my more standard content and how I'm going to resolve my issues with it. Anytime I try a new game, if at the time that I try it, it doesn't have functional multi-monitor support or a means to get it to work, I'll create a short 1 to 2 minute video highlighting the issues. This video will be in triple wide if the game recognises the resolution, 1080p if it does not. If at a later date I am informed or I come back to the game and it has functional support or a hack to add support, I'll edit the title and description of that short video, either to point to a new one or to describe the fixed support. This may be a short video, one of my more standard videos, or just information in the description with links to appropriate locations, depending on how I feel about the game at the time. Regardless as to if the game has support or not, I will state at the start of the video, put in the video description and maybe in the title as well, the date and year the video was created, not uploaded. The video description will also provide links to the Widescreen Gaming Forum Reddit and the Discord, as well as to the PC Gaming Wiki page for the game, since they're basically the three best locations to find this kind of information. If a game I try has multi-monitor support out the gate, I'll create one of two types of videos. A look at, which is my standard more in-depth kind of video that requires me to get some way into the game first to understand its systems and mechanics and then explain them all to you. Or a second type of video, which I'm currently referring to as blind first look, which is basically just be my first hour or so with the game after I've confirmed I can record properly in it. Both of these types of videos will be released in 48:9 and 21:9 aspect ratio, although the content will be mostly focused on its 48:9 support. Now about Let's Plays. The plan is to have them between 30 minutes and 1 hour long, probably leaning towards the latter. And since I'm going to be playing a lot of Final Fantasy XIV Endwalker anyway, I've been heavily into that game since before the release of Shadowbringers, I'll be creating a Let's Play of the main story quest of that. I'll be editing and cutting down most of the extra stuff I end up doing, things like extra dungeon runs to level or searching for aphid occurrence. I have a few other plans that I could make with Final Fantasy XIV once I'm done with the main story quest, but we'll see how long it takes to upload the main story quest to begin with. After Final Fantasy XIV, my next major game I know I want to play is Monster Hunter Rise, followed by Elden Ring. Maybe creating a Let's Play of Elden Ring will mean it's the second FromSoft game I actually finish rather than getting distracted from. Both will be subject to playable triple monitor support, and the demo of Monster Hunter Rise didn't have support. It did have support for 21:9, but that's of little use to me. As for what I'm going to do in the coming 2 to 3 weeks, now that Endwalker's been pushed back, I'm floating the idea of starting a satisfactory playthrough on Update 9, and coming back to it later when I need more content, but I'm not 100% on that yet. However, since I currently have no other options or ideas, then it's probably what I'm going to do. So those are my current plans. I haven't figured out what time slot yet, but I want to avoid the 4 to 6 PM GMT time slot most of the channels I follow post in. So it's probably going to be 7 PM. Hopefully, if this does help me motivate me to continue making my other projects, I may later down the line post videos about the development that I'm doing on that end, but we'll see how things go on that. Now it's time to get into the weeds. I spent about 2 days testing settings, checking results to see how far I could push my computer, my encoder and editing software, and YouTube to try and get the best quality I could out of my videos. Shockingly, YouTube remains the biggest problem. While an 8K video does have marginally better quality in moving scenes than a 5K one, I'm unimpressed by the difference. That said, it's noticeable enough to me to go with upscaling to 8K and then uploading. Side note, YouTube does accept 5760 by 1080 as a valid resolution, that's 3 times 1080p, and encodes a 5K video with it. There will be links to all of my test videos in the description, but to cut a long and not that interesting section shorter, I recorded a lossless encoding of some Path of Exile gameplay, uploaded that directly to YouTube, saw how horrendously the quality dropped the second anything fast was happening. You can see that, I think, at about the 40-second onward mark. So I played around with testing with the H.264 and the HEVC or H.265 encoders and upscaling, and found that the codec I used didn't really matter, but if you pause the video you can see a noticeable difference in the detail between the 5 and the 8K footage. I'll quickly show 3 screenshots taken from these videos. One is lossless before upload, one is 5K after upload, and the 8K one after upload. I'll circle some areas to pay attention to so you can see the quality difference. Another side note, this is basically, or since this video is being upscaled to 8K, then the 8K screenshot has been upscaled, downscaled so that I can view it, grabbed, then upscaled again to 8K, and then downscaled again so that you can view it. So there's probably going to be some extra quality loss there. You can check the original videos for a more accurate look. So with that noted, I then tested a few other things. Using super sampling to 8K rather than just upscaling in DaVinci Resolve didn't help the quality once it reached YouTube. Using Q or CQP setting of 18 didn't help increase the quality versus 120 megabit per second or 80 megabit per second variable bitrate. Also using the main 10 profile of HEVC, while it did result in the brighter parts of the videos staying brighter, it's also resulted in everything else being a higher saturation than it should be. So finally, it's time to go through the full pipeline I'll be using to create videos going forward. Step 1 is to record the footage. I've ended up deciding to use OBS. This is mostly because DxTory, the software I could reliably trust to be able to work in the past, doesn't work with DirectX 12 and hasn't been updated in so long that I would trust it currently to run with most games. OBS has been configured with a single scene setup at 5760 by 1080, my desktop resolution and the resolution I game at, and then 4 audio channels, one for the microphone and the other 3 capturing my virtual outputs from Voice Meter Potato. I should only need 2 of these 4, the others are more for when I'm streaming and the music that I'm listening to. Each channel is assigned to its own audio track so that I can split them apart during editing. The scene will have just the game capture source added to it for the game that we're currently playing, and in the event that doesn't work, I can always try using window capture instead. Next, the encoder settings. Base and output resolution are set for my desktop resolution. Frames per second is set to 60. Render is set to Direct3D 11. Color format to I444. Color space to 709. And color range is set to full. Recording output settings are set with the type of custom output FFmpeg. This gives me full control over the codec and the encoder while recording. The container is the Matrox, I think that's how it's pronounced, or MKV format. This is so that I can have multiple audio channels and not lose the whole recording in the event that OBS or Windows crashes, which is something that would happen if you use MP4s or MOVs. Bitrate is set to 300 megabits per second with a keyframe every 2 seconds. The encoder itself will be HEVC NVENC, which is NVIDIA's hardware encoder for the H.265 codec. The encoder settings are largely subjective tweaks on my part. I tried the lossless presets and the lossless high performance preset, and while I could get it to work, sometimes the GPU couldn't keep up. with the resolution and frame rate that we're using. So we have it set to low latency, high quality preset, with the codec set to use high tier rather than main. The high quality variable bitrate setting, force to pass off, just in case it shouldn't be on, but this just guarantees it isn't, and use GPU 1 rather than GPU 0 to encode. The result is that it will use my GTX 1080 to encode rather than my RTX 2080 Ti that will be rendering the game. So touch wood, that should lead to a smoother encoding experience. Audio encoding is just ACC, all 4 channels at 520 kilobits per second each. The reason for using HEVC over H.264 for recording is because officially the H.264 codec officially the H.264 codec specification does not support resolutions beyond 4K. If I was using the X264 encoder, this actually wouldn't matter since it ignores that part of the specification, but NVIDIA's hardware encoder does follow the specification. So I'm using HEVC, which does support up to 8K resolutions, which is what I should have been doing anyway. For video editing and final encoding, I'm using DaVinci Resolve Studio. That's the £270 paid version. I'm using the paid version because I need access to hardware encoding and decoding for the H.265 codec, the ability to process the H.265 codec in general, and the ability to work with videos beyond 4K in size, all of which require the paid version. Thankfully, this is a one-time payment, not a subscription. I'll be using it to do all of my video editing, most of my VFX work, and my audio editing. Currently, I'm creating 1/4 size proxy media from my recordings to allow better scrubbing while I edit, but I may skip this step in the future if creating proxy media takes longer than it would do for me to just edit it with the slower scrub rate. So I'll see how that goes in the future. Lastly, my final encoding settings. Nothing too special here. I created 2 custom settings, one for 48:9, one for 21:9. Settings are largely what you would expect: MP4 container, H.265 codec, and video encoder to use the GPU rather than the CPU. Custom resolution for the aspect ratio, restricted to is just variable bit rate limit, which is currently set to 120 megabit per second for triple wide. I may drop that to 80, given that there's not much difference after YouTube has mangled it. And I'm currently using 60 megabit per second for ultra wide, and I may drop that to 40 for the same reason. The encoder profile is set to main 444, and everything else is set to default. And from there, the video gets uploaded to YouTube, scheduled for release later, gets given tags, descriptions, and I'm going to start adding custom thumbnails. And that brings us to the end of the video. Hopefully this pipeline will not cause too many problems. My main concerns at the minute are going to be time to create an edit and upload, given the speed of my internet connection and the size of the output files I'll be working with. I'm hoping the process of recording, editing, and setting up everything for YouTube will take less than 3 to 4 hours per video on average, which will let me keep making videos even if something else comes up. I'm also hoping that the encoder speeds and upload speeds don't cause me too many issues when I want to be doing other things with my computer, because at the minute everything's being done on this one machine. But I have ideas to work around that anyway. But yeah, if you made it to this point in the video, thank you for sticking with it. I hope it was informative, or at the very least interesting, and that I'll be able to see things through what I set out earlier in the video. That just leaves me to say thank you very much for watching, and hopefully I will see you next time.